What is up, guys? EpicExploceans coming at you with the second video / commentary. Not gonna waste any time, I'm gonna hop right into this. Why 2016 was the most important year for America? I can go into a lot of factors that I believe have contributed to this. I'm gonna start with what I believe to be the most important. Number one, PC culture is finally being exposed for what it truly is. If you haven't heard, I don't know how you haven't heard by now, PC culture, politically correct culture, has pretty much infested our society for the past 3 to 4 to 5 decades, particularly the past 2 to 3 decades. It has been kind of shoved down our throats, and in essence, all politically correct culture really is just dictating what constitutes as oppressive speech and what does not. It's policing language, basically, which is directly degrading the First Amendment and freedom of speech, which, you know, America and Western civilization as a whole fights so hard to defend. And this has finally been kind of turned on its head in the past year or so, and it's very interesting to see this finally being exposed for what it is. Now, we are by no means out of the dark. Just a month ago, we witnessed an attack, a terrorist attack, on Ohio State's campus. Now, the day following, students on the campus were interviewed by news reporters asking if they believed that it constituted terrorism in their book, or if they considered it to be terrorism. Now, I kid you not, guys, probably 1 out of 30 people that they interviewed said that it was terrorism. The remainder wished to not answer, said that it depended on your definition of terrorism, and in a nutshell, basically, they can't think for themselves, they don't know what to think, and they don't want to offend anybody. Because that's really all that these public universities are producing, is just people who can spit out rhetoric that is supposed to be upbuilding and uniting and all of that, when in reality, it's all based in falsehoods and really just no evidence at all. And I'll get into that a little bit in the meat of this video, but this is what I'm trying to illustrate. Just how much of a blinder PC culture has had on our society, particularly us, me, a 20-year-old. If you're in between the ages of, I would say 16, because I really believe this is starting younger, 16 to like 28, you are in this, and it's going to be up to you as, you know, the future leaders of this country to decide, are you going to do your own research to come to your own conclusions, or are you just going to decide with what I like to consider this compassionate, liberalism, this, I don't want to offend anybody, and I really just don't have an opinion on anything, and I don't know how to think, because that's really all it is. You don't know how to think. People don't know how to think, and that's all that we've produced. Not going to get really into that spill much more anymore. Now, the second reason that I believe that 2016 has been an awesome year for turning America around is the fact that the liberal media has finally been exposed for who they are. Now, the mainstream media has been around for a long time, and it's been kind of known that they've been biased for a while, and it's certainly gotten to a whole new level. Some would argue a subliminal cultural Marxist level, a level that seeks to divide, and, you know, I can see where people believe that. I'm not going to, you know, harp on this too long, but if you look at the mainstream media, they support ideologies such as the transgender movement, lesbian households, the LGBTQ community, etc., etc. All of those, you kind of already can think about what it is that they support. And if you look into all of this, you see that it's totally based on the narrative that if you want to be transgender and you want to identify as a transgender, you will be happier if you do that. It will lead to a happier life. If you feel like you like women and you're a woman, you will be happier if you pursue relationships with women. Now, the problem with this is it's all a bunch of crap. If you look into the statistics, 60% of lesbian couples report being unhappy, and I believe it's 67% in comparison to heterosexual couples. Lesbian couples, 67% of lesbian couples receive welfare, as compared to 37% of the heterosexual couples. Now, that is huge, and don't get me wrong, guys, I don't have anything against welfare. If you need welfare to get by, that's perfectly applicable and understandable. But I think that it showcases and illustrates a point that should be made, that perhaps lesbian couples don't offer the most to the economy or to society or to the workforce. And I think that these things need to be addressed and to be highlighted. The transgender community, for example. 40% of the transgender community has committed suicide. This is an issue. This is a problem, and this is a fact. But you see everywhere people wanting to defend the people who choose to be transgender, which I find to be complete contradictory, because if you believe that you are supposed to be that person, well, for one, there is no systemic oppression against you. Systemic oppression is when institutions are deliberately and directly set up to oppress you. We don't have that in America. We don't have that in the Western civilizations. So really what it's happening is that these people are already exposing how weak they really are. And I'm saying all this to bring light on the problem because I care for these people, believe it or not, as much as I sound like I'm mad at everybody in society, in the world. I care for these people. Same with women. You've seen it with the feminist movement. You've seen it with how they're saying that women should have the same status as men and that they are just as equal. And look, I believe in equal opportunity for all, but I don't believe in pushing down and shoving down women's throats the idea that you should be working a full-time 40 to 50-hour job because that's what women do in the new world. Because that's not been proven to be true if you look at statistics, especially since the women have entered in the workforce in the 70s. They have reported feeling more unhappy, and that kind of gives way more to the idea that women, biologically speaking, are more respective and gravitate toward a home life and raising a family and nurturing kids. But you don't see this coming out of the liberal and the leftist agenda in the mainstream media. And I seriously wonder, and this is getting back into what people say that the mainstream media is a cultural Marxist group that seeks to divide society. I can kind of see some evidence on that, because if you look at all of these things, transgenderism, lesbian couples, and everything, the one thing they all have in common is they devalue, degrade, and destroy the nuclear family in America. And this has a profound consequence on everything, on the economy and everything. And it makes you wonder, well, the people that are supporting this, perhaps they know this and they want us to be weaker. They want us to fall. And that's why that I feel that 2016 has been such an influential year in just the fact that this is kind of being exposed for what it truly is. Now, I'm sure you've heard of people such as Ben Shapiro, Milo Yiannopoulos, I can't even pronounce his last name, but just very outspoken, conservative, somebody called them alt-right. I don't buy into them being the part of the alt-right, but just really, in my mind, rational, common-sense speakers against this plague known as identity politics. Now, ultimately, this all comes back to us. Because, we can have a year where this gets exposed and we are, we see with President-elect Trump, how he's wanting to just completely destroy this notion of globalism. And if you don't know what globalism is, I can get into that whole thing into another video. I would love to, actually. Just leave me a comment if you think that that's something that I should talk about. But in essence, globalism is just wanting to rule the whole world under one political entity, and it will not work, it will fail, and it will bring this world into World War III. 100% guarantee you. Worst idea ever. And if you need evidence as to why globalism will fail, look at the European Union. Perfect example. I'll leave you at that with the globalism, but Trump is trying to expose nationalism and bring back nationalism in the hard-working American, which is another thing that you don't see the mainstream media ever supporting. So all of this sheds light on the idea that there are people out there and that there is a war out there for your mind. And all that I'm going to urge you guys to do, especially my generation, is to do your own research. The mainstream media has been exposed as being a lying, cheating piece of junk. Do your own research. Hope you guys have a great day. Subscribe, like, comment for more. Peace.